Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Journey Online. My name is Jeremy. I'm one of the pastors here at Journey Community Church in East Dallas and, well, online, where you all are joining me right now. But I'm not alone. I will be joining shortly by our friend Carly. And I do just want to take a moment and just, if you would say a prayer for Pastor Jonathan and his family. He just recently uh, lost his grandmother, and there's be some details coming out in an email if you're a regular watcher, if you would like to support him in that way. But just be praying for him and his family, as that's grandmas are special, and so we mourn along with him. So we're going to bring on though Carly. She's going to help field all the difficult questions in this time. Hello, Carly.
That's a really generous explanation of what I do.
Well, you said I was going to take it easy on you today, but I don't know. I don't know now.
Oh
I'm
man.
feeling. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. We're talking about expectations today. So, but first, how has your day been? I didn't see you today. How is everything going?
It is going so good. So
Yeah.
my mom is in town from San Diego, and so she is with us for a full week. She just
Mhm.
recently retired, which is the best news ever.
Yeah.
So she is here and just talking about grandmas. Like my girls adore her, and she's Coco grandma to them. So, because she makes the best hot chocolate. So ever since they were little, they have always called her Coco.
That's a good name. I love that. That's cool, Coco.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Coco.
Oh man. Well, that's cool. Yeah, it's exciting. So she's here for the rest of the week. Hopefully, it'll be beautiful weather. She had to suffer the cold, all right, the first day or two.
She loves the cold though.
Mm.
Loves it. She's like, it's fall. And I'm like, well, for 2 days it will be.
We Ellie had practice on Monday night for soccer, and it was like 45 degrees or whatever. And
Yeah.
I said I was out there practicing with the girls, and it's a bunch of 10-year-old girls I coach soccer for, and I was saying like it's not cold, like you can't even see your breath yet. And then Ellie got in the car and she was talking about like how her fingers were all cold, and I said, I thought you're from Ohio, like like I'm disappointed in you. And she she said, well, I was a baby when we moved here, and I was like, it's like 4 years ago, but okay, whatever.
4 years ago. I
Yeah.
love it.
So it is actually like it's probably just over 4 years that I've been down here in Texas. I think we just celebrated pretty recently moving down here, which is kind of crazy, right? 4 years to be across the country. So
Yes, it flies by.
yeah, which is kind of cool because I've shared the story. We're talking about expectations today, right? And that's like the title is of the sermon from Sunday is called "Shattering Expectations," and that will be up on YouTube probably tomorrow or whatever. And I've shared here that the whole story of me coming here is just kind of a shattering of an expectation that I thought it was going to be. Like Texas was never on the list. It was never going to be Texas. It could be like across the world. It could be a different country. It could be different. Like it was not.
Yep.
It was not Texas. So, and here I am 4 years later, just like moving to a new place and everything. Like settling down into. It's kind of wild, but yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty happy about it. I think it's 4 years, man. I can't even tell. It's Time flies when you're having fun.
Sure does.
Yeah, and I moved here in the time warp of COVID, so I don't know.
Yes,
At,
you
like
did.
right at the end of COVID. Yeah, so yeah, I'll say this again. Hopefully, it never happens. But if you ever have a pandemic, that's not the time to be looking to move across the country. Terrible time to
Oh my
add
God.
that stress to your life. But oh gosh. Okay. Well, let's see. Um, I got a couple icebreaker questions here. First one's easy. Okay, it can
Okay.
be as easy or as difficult as you want it to be. Okay, so we're early in the evening. So, and anybody else in the chat can participate as well. This is not just for Carly; she just gets to talk. But and then I'll answer too, of course. Maybe depends on how much you struggle on the. But think of a time when something didn't go as you expected, but turned out better than you imagined. How did it change your perspective? That's the first question we're going to start with. So, when something didn't go as expected, but it turned out better than you imagined, and then how did it change your perspective?
I would say, I think when I moved to Switzerland to go to Bible college, um, I thought that it was going to be something that it definitely wasn't, which ended up being a huge blessing. So I went into this Bible college, um, and I thought it was going to be something more. And I remember talking to my spiritual mom, and she said, "This is a great thing. This means that you came from a very healthy church. The fact that you know what they're talking about, the fact that you almost are bored shows that your spiritual walk is very strong." And so I think that helped shape my mind into what am I going to learn today, into kind of I was so disappointed. And then I was like, well, that disappointment can actually be a really good thing, because now I'm like, ears open, eyes open. Like, what can I learn from this? Like, you grow so much in your spiritual walk. And so when it was time to go to, we did the studying in Switzerland, and then we moved to Cambodia and Thailand. So when it was time to move to Cambodia and Thailand, I had this heart of like, what's it going to be like, instead of having these expectations of like what it should, or like what I've seen in the movies or what I've read. So when I met people and when I was put into situations, I already kind of had this open heart to just glean from other people. And it wasn't so much of what am I going to learn, but what can I grow to be?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how a big trip like that will, like, if you allow it, shape you in so many different ways. And
Oh, it will flip
um,
you on your head and
mhm.
twist you around and then be like, "You good? Because we're gonna do it again."
Yeah, you better be ready this time, or maybe not. And some of it's like not even being ready; it's just being prepared to be unready. That is a good skill, I think, to master, of like being comfortable in not not knowing what's next. And so, like, Carlene and I, we're my wife, we're so opposite in that. We're like she gets stressed out for me. Like, I went to Kansas City. No, when I went to Ireland earlier last year or whatever, like,
Yeah.
she's like, "When are you going? When's your flight?" And that I had actually booked my flight out, like, I don't know, like 6 months early. So I was really, really, really ahead of schedule for me. But then she's like, "How are you getting to the airport? Like, what are you gonna do when you get there?" Because I had a whole day to do. Like, how are you gonna? You're like, I don't know. Like, it'll be fine. That stressed her out beyond belief. Like, when I went to Kansas City a couple months ago, I booked my Airbnb 3 days before, and she has learned. She has learned that if I'm traveling by myself, to
Yep.
like not stress about it. But I have learned the opposite, that if she is with me or the kids, like, it has to be like I have to set the expectations out, or their expectations are that it is planned out. Hers, especially, is like it's planned
Yes.
out. It's uh, itinerary. She needs to know like where we're going, how we're going, all that stuff. Whereas me, like, we're going to drive back to Ohio right around Thanksgiving, and my I would be happy enough to like get in the car after church and just start driving. Like, that would be totally fine with me. But we've already got like where we're staying, and so like it's just yeah, I think that's that's been like, expectations change when you get married, when you like enter into any relationship really with somebody. But when you dedicate and promise to spend your life with an opposite, somebody else, it's kind of, you learn a
David
lot.
is the same way as you. We'll get in the car and he'll
Hmm.
just start reversing, and he's like, "Where are we going?" And I'm like, "Stop the car, put it in park, get out your Google map. Like, we're gonna figure this out before we start driving." Yeah.
Yeah, no, no, there's no fun in that. No fun in that. But it does get me in trouble sometimes. So, it's not the best method always, but it is my method.
I love
Uh,
it.
so okay, so I'll share my incident, I guess, is as expectations. So when I, yesterday was Veterans Day, so I got to do a lot of reflecting on that, because I'm a veteran. For those of you who do not know, and we think about that, and I was like thinking about how that journey is like. I went to a kid in our church's their school, and I talked to them about being a veteran and all that. I was talking to another bunch of other veterans, and when I joined in 2005, I joined the Army Reserve, and the promise of naturally, of course, was 6 years, 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks in the summer. But I knew we were at war, so like that probably wasn't gonna be true. But it ended up being a lot more. 2 years into it, I switched from the reserves to the National Guard. So they're both reserve components, but for quick breakdown, reserves are like federally funded. A National Guard is funded by the state and federal. So like when you see like people out doing natural disasters and stuff, like helping, that's usually the National Guard. But they also, during the war, deployed a whole bunch. So I switched over because they had free college. I didn't think anything more about that. The Ohio National Guard would pay for my college, and I would switch from the reserves, and it was really easy. And so I expected the same contract to be honored. I mean, I'm young and dumb. I'm not reading. So we get to so it's supposed to be my thought 6 years, and then 2 years of called individual ready reserve, which is like 2 years of like you have to check in, but you're not in really, kind of. But they could call you back at any time. But the year before I thought that was supposed to start, I started these retention interviews, and the commander's talking to me about all this, and he's like, "Oh, you got to come in this date and this date and this date." And I was like, "Oh, like," I said, "Sir, like I have to come into you like when I'm supposed to be out of the Army?" And he said, "Well, what are you talking about?" And I said, "Well, my contract's for this long." So I went to talk to somebody else, and you know, long story short is I still had 2 more years to complete after that. And so my expectation was to get one over on the Army, and they got one over on me. But because of that, yeah, because of that, I had to go to Afghanistan, which is a transformative time in my life for many different reasons, good and bad. But I also got to come back, and Carlene and I ended up graduating at the same time. So we started dating our senior year, and like got married. And also over there, I got a lot of experience doing like small ministry type stuff. Like I was the worship leader over there for our little chapel services. So a lot of really good stuff came out of that. And so through that, I learned that I can't always control, especially if I don't prepare. I can't always control what happens. But then out of that, good things can happen if you allow them, or like if you look for the good in things. Like um, I think I've come to learn through myself and through ministering to other people that you can have an expectation of what it means to like follow Jesus and to be a Christian, and it probably won't work out that way a lot of times, especially if you are willing to not let it work out that way. But even if you are, like it's just going to change, and you can either like let it break you, which is okay, to get broken down, but also like there could be really good open doors that come out of that experience if you search for it, or you like pursue after it, I suppose. So yeah, the Army, man. Yeah, it'll get you. And I was a dope, and I ended up signing up for another year to get promoted to a rank. So I did almost 10 years, and then I got out, and just before I came to Texas, one of the things I was going to do was go back to school to get my divinity degree, my master's of divinity, so I could join the Army again as a chaplain. And so that didn't work out. So I ended up coming to Texas. And then when I was in Kansas City, I talked to a chaplain recruiter again, but I'm just getting too old. So, like, it's like this pole that just, it's a unique place. But that's my expectations. Yeah. I thought I was doing one thing, and I thought I had it all figured out, but it did not work out that way.
Surprise.
It was a surprise. He said, what do you mean? What do you mean you gotta oh boy. Well, there you go. That'll get you. But it makes me unique too, also is in like the VFW, a lot of people, Vietnam, VFW, then also a lot of people who went to like one war, like a lot of Iraq or a lot of Afghanistan. And surprisingly, for whatever reason, very few Iraq, Afghanistan veterans. So kind of a cool little fun fact about me. 2 wars.
2 wars.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So This kind of goes hand in hand with that, I guess, for me. But what traditions? And I think you kind of talked about this when you went to Switzerland. But like, what traditions or beliefs have you inherited, like from your family, your experiences, or whatever? What have you inherited that might have been limiting, or maybe you think are limiting still to your view of God's work in your life? It's kind of a so yeah, like what because we talked about inheritance a lot on Sunday and like things being passed down. So like we get these beliefs passed down to us and these ideas of how we're supposed to interact in the world. But like, do you think there's anything that has been passed down to you spiritually or not that has like had to change or move so you could experience God in a different way?
I think that I think learning that change will happen and it's okay is something that I've had to um, kind of learn in a different way. When I was little, we moved around quite a bit, and it was just something that we did and didn't think anything of it. Like we just were going to move, and so we moved. But as a adult, knowing that things can happen, how is it? Things can happen to you if you let it happen to you, and then things can happen and it can be more fluid.
Mm,
And I think change, letting yourself know that like change will happen. And sometimes, you think you know God's plan, and then you're like, whoa, wait. Like, with us too, like moving to
mhm.
Texas, we moved a year or maybe 2 years before you guys did. And I was like, wait, I'm an adult. I'm not a child anymore. Like, why are we moving? Because I always moved when I was little. Um, so as an adult and learning that things will always change, and to kind of be like, okay, like I now know that it is not my parents' plan, like it was always God's plan.
Mm,
So giving them freedom, like releasing that. When like you have to say sorry to someone and they don't even know really why you're saying sorry to them, but
yeah,
I
yeah.
need to say sorry. So it's like it was like releasing my parents and be like, hey, you were following God's will. You were following God's path. And it wasn't happening to me. It was happening in the best way for me.
Mm,
So that's something that I've had to learn, and also like lean into. Like it's I had to do both.
yeah. As I was thinking about this question and some of the story we're about to read here in and kind of what Jonathan was talking about Sunday, uh, expectations. Like, do you like have expectations for your kids that you express to them?
You know what?
And I'll add a question on top of that real quick. Is were there expectations that were expressed to you when you were a kid by your parents?
Oh my gosh, 100%. Um, Growing up, and I talked about this once in one of my sermons, was that I was expected to be the funny one. I was
Oh yeah.
expected to be the I'm the middle child. So, like lackadaisical, go along with the flow, make people laugh, ease the situation if there's tension. My
Mhm.
sister was expected to be the smart one, and she is incredibly, incredibly smart. Um, so that was her expectation, to do well in school, to have the best singing voice, to play the piano like a pristine. And I didn't have any expectations of schooling on me. I didn't have any expectations of being talented in any way. My expectations were to be funny and easy.
Mhm. And so then how does that translate then to the expectations you put on your girls, your 2 kids?
You know what? That's a fantastic question because they might be able to answer that better than I. Because
Yeah.
um, the only expectation truly that we really, really talk about is like more values.
Yeah.
Like I expect them to we always eat dinner together as a family. I expect them to sit in their seats and to have conversation. Um I expect them to be present.
Mhm.
And there's no I don't know if this is an expectation or just being a good parent, but we don't have any tolerance for lying.
Mm. Yeah.
I expect them to be honest, and I always give them a lot I open up a conversation with a lot of grace. So if
Mhm.
I know something is teetering, like if they don't really want to tell the truth about something, I always give them that that grace and their time to talk. Like I open up the floor to them. But that is a huge expectation. We do not lie in our family. So we don't have secrets. We call them surprises. Uh, so it's like, oh, like keep this a secret from daddy, like a
Mhm.
birthday gift or something. Instead, I'm like, this is going to be a surprise for daddy.
Yeah.
So it's kind of taking out words, and um, I expect them to follow those expectations. So dinner and no lying.
Yeah. Yeah. I think because this idea of expectations and even like broader sense, like the religion, like in like how we follow people in the churches, like we stand on the shoulders of the saints that come before us, right? And like we learn all these things, especially if you grew up in the church. And because I don't think, and this might just be ADHD memory, but I don't think that like I had like expectations for me in like a way that I needed to be a certain way for somebody else. You know, like it wasn't like they didn't expect me to be good or like it was just like there was no expectation to be like you need to be the best, you need to like be very like that
Yes,
wasn't.
yes,
I don't think I had any of that, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. You know, like I as the standards that come with expectations that probably would have helped me a lot as I was younger, I'm sure, but and now as we had kids, Carly and I talked a lot about, I always joked, everybody's the best parent when they don't have kids, right? And then you get
oh
kids.
my
And
word,
yeah. And
amen to that.
yeah. And you're like, oh, okay, I get it now. You're like, I get why everybody else is a bad parent because I'm a bad parent. you know what I mean? But like I learned that I think that like if we're not intentional, and this is there's actually a pretty radical change for me, even like the past year of like intentionality of not just like raising my kids, like Carly and I have talked a lot about like being intentional about how we want to live and what we're teaching our kids. And maybe we don't put expectations on them. Like I try not to say a lot of like I expect this. I mean, there's like some really big ones. Like there's like um they're siblings. So I tell 'em, like I expect you both to like be there for each other. Like that's like a huge expectation. Like I would rather like lying is bad. 100%. I agree with that 100%. But I would rather them be together than like like throwing each other under the bus. You know what I mean? Like I'm like it's
Yes,
expectation for them to be supportive of one another. Now if they choose to lie and that's fine, they'll both get in trouble, but at least they are together. And the expectation also is that they would help hold each other accountable. Like they would. So and that is something I do express to them. Like I expect you to like help each other, not tattle on each other, help each other before it gets to the point where they get in trouble. Like you are. That's what I expect from you. So that's like, I think about that because we want to be intentional. Um, and so like in the church world, same kind of thing. Like I grew up in the church. I grew up like I don't know if there's many expectations. I learned a lot about the Bible. I kind of like stumbled my way into a bunch of cool positions and a bunch of cool leadership positions. And I learned theology on the way, but like there wasn't like a lot of I will say that I hear the stories of my friends who had very strict upbringings and very
mm,
high expectations of their lives, and to a legalistic standpoint in some cases, and it's pretty foreign to me because I'm kind of the opposite end of that, and it's just kind of um, I wouldn't know how to react if that, and it's funny because I went to the army and it's all about expectations, like about doing the right thing all the time. But yeah, I just because this will pass down. I'm hyper aware that how I was raised
100%. I was
is
going to
going to
ask
affect,
you about
yeah,
this. So go.
yep. How I was raised affects who I am, and if I don't own whatever that is, then I don't get to choose how my kids are raised. They're just going to be a byproduct of however I'm existing in the world. But now it's like it's much bigger than me. Like now there's a lineage, so now the expectation of myself even is that I need to get things right for my kids so they can be good for their future. So like, yeah, I think there's like kind of what you were saying, like there's stuff that can happen to you. And if you don't realize that, then it just happens. And you may never know like why you act the way you do, or why you feel the way that you do, or like why you even believe what you believe. This happens so much, like even like everyday situations. You could ask somebody, they could say something crazy, and people do say crazy stuff all the time. They put stuff off the wall, and you're like, what are you like? You could just ask, like, why do you think that? And like, it is fascinating to hear. And that when I taught middle school, is the same way. Like middle school is like the time. I love teaching middle school. They're crazy kids, but it's a time where they think they have opinions, but that the opinions they think that they have are just their parents, but they're kind of owning the opinions. So I'm like, why do you think that? Like, why are you saying that? And a lot of them, they don't know. And I think that's not just middle school. That extends up into forever. In the church, like, why do you think the way that you think? And it's kind of dangerous as a pastor to be like, why do you think that? It sounds like I'm like challenging people. I'm like, why do you think that? But yeah, I think expectations, they happen to you or you set them, and I think that's kind of the
And also, like, why do you choose the expectations that you choose? Like for me with the lion thing, like because I don't want them to follow the path that I was on.
Mhm.
So if I can cut it off when they are itty bitty, like that's what I'm going to do with all my might. David, on the other hand, has different expectations of the
Mhm.
girls because he wants. So mine was more of like a negative, like I don't want them
Yeah.
to be like that. Whereas David's expectations are, it was so good for me that I want them to be that way as well. So
Yeah.
expectations like really do have a lot of heartstrings. Like I know that you and Carlene both have siblings.
Mhm.
Like, and sometimes you're really close with them and sometimes you're really not. And sometimes it might not be important to someone because they're like, yeah, we turned out okay. But if you don't instill that, like you will always be for each other,
Yeah.
then like you just want what's best and you know what's going to be best as they get older.
Yeah.
So childhood, childhood.
Yeah.
So either, you want to defer them from something that you did, or you want them to lean into something that you did. So
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes they are just like you no matter what you try, and then it's very frustrating.
yes.
Like I said that same thing. Oh my gosh. Like funny, Ezra's been like as the kids say, I don't know if they say it, but he's been on one. He's been nuts. Like today, he's so funny, and he draws comics now. I'll have to bring some of the comics for you to look at. Like he's doing how
Please
to
do.
draw pictures. Yep. And he's so talented. And so today we came to prayer, we went to the store. Afterwards, I was sitting in the car still and the door was locked. So he comes back from the front door and he opens up my door and he goes, "Hey bozo, give me the keys." And I said, "What'd you call me?" He said, "Hey, bozo, give me the keys." I'm like, oh my gosh. It's so funny because like it doesn't affect me. And so my expectation is like he knows that's wrong. Like it's not, he knows that he's being silly. And
Yes.
but also like I don't want to stifle his creativity because I value creativity, and he's so, what can you do but laugh at it? So, and recognizing too, like, there's no ill intent behind that for me. That's like, so
100%. Yeah.
yeah, because like then that's your expectations too. Like, how am I expecting myself to react in these situations for better or worse?
Yep.
So, And all that shapes how we interact with the world and how we interact with God, which is why we're going to look at Luke 20 right now. So we've been in Luke, and we've been like the themes that have come out is hospitality. I think that's kind of, for me, the overarching theme. And this one we're looking at is the Sadducees are trying to talk to Jesus, and Pharisees, Sadducees are both like religious leaders, the kind of different sects, and they are trying to trip Jesus up because they don't like him. He's challenging what their expectations are, and some of these things have been passed down for, generations and generations, right? It's even to this day, those who are in the Jewish faith practice like traditions that have been passed down since the very beginning of the Bible. So there's a lot of expectations and understandings that go into this teaching, and the Sadducees here are trying to trip Jesus up with an expectations that they have, and he kind of sidesteps we didn't sidestep it. He invites us into a new reality. So they don't believe in resurrection. Pharisees believe in resurrection. Like at the end day, whenever it is, everybody comes up out of the graves, and it's good. Sadducees don't believe in resurrection. And the old joke, and I'm disappointed that Jonathan didn't say it on Sunday, and I'll say it so people remember it, but the Sadducees were Sadducee because they didn't believe in resurrection. So that's how you can remember the difference between Sadducees and Pharisees, but both religious leaders that wanted to retain power. And I think this is probably a familiar theme. If you look at anywhere, look around the world right now, and leaders of the church and religion in general, like leaders in there are they're doing anything they can to hold on to whatever little power they have or whatever amount of power they have. And there is for a myriad of reasons. And so they would probably come with this person who's inviting us into a new way and be very angry as these people were with Jesus, trying to trip him up and hold him to task. So here it is, Luke 20, verse 27 through 38. Some Sadducees, those who say there is no resurrection, came to him and asked him a question. Teacher, Moses wrote for us that if a man's brother dies, leaving a wife but no children, the man should the widow and raise up the children for his brother. Now there were 7 brothers. The first married a woman and died childless. Then the second, and then the third married, and so in the same way all 7 died childless. Finally, the woman died. In the resurrection, therefore, whose wife will the woman be? For the 7 had married her. Jesus said to them, those who belong to this age marry and are given in marriage, but those who are considered worthy of a place in that age and in the resurrection from the dead neither marry nor are given in marriage. Indeed, they cannot die anymore because they are like angels and are children of God, being children of the resurrection. And the fact that their dead are raised, Moses himself showed in the story about the bush, where he speaks of the Lord as the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Now he is God, not of the dead, but of the living, for to him all of them were alive. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. So there you go. So a lot of stuff in there, but it starts off with an expectation that I think that they were, trying to be smarter than Jesus in this, of like this gotcha question. And there's a lot of gotcha questions out there, even for us today. So out of that, a word, phrase, thought, or idea. For you, Carly, anybody else in the chat, is there a word, phrase, thought, or idea that sticks out to you in that scripture we just read? I guess I'll share that with everybody too. So I'll put it here in the chat.
Oh man. I love that they were trying to trick him. I think that is, still to this day, it happens. But he is the God of the living, not the God of the dead. And I think that is, there are so many ways to live. And there are so many ways to, I get the literal living and dead, but so many people can live life, but are feeling dead. And God is the God of life and of light. And so that definitely sticks out to me the most out of anything.
Yeah, I think so. I think similar. The 7. They went to the extreme. Like this happened and this happened, this happened. And it is like the minuscule, like 0.001% chance that might happen. And for most of us, that will never be like a situation that we'll have to consider. But they wanted the right answer, right? They wanted to see
Yep.
how you, because they thought they had him, as they often do. But Jesus invites us into a new a new way of living, and a new invitation. Like I said, like a God of the living, not of the dead. Because it does kind of look at like specifically for the Sadducees, because they are uh, I'm saying anti-resurrection, but I don't know if they were actually anti or just didn't believe it. But they did not believe in the resurrection. I guess that's what I should say. That like, for them, it doesn't really matter, But this is a challenging to him of like, how would you deal with this crazy situation for this thing that you're talking about? Um, and that I see a lot. I mean, we see that in the churches. We see that from people who aren't God-fearing people. People who are not in the church, and um, people who are in the church, different denominations. I mean, shoot, we look for the examples of like, well, what about this? And
You.
yeah, yeah. And I think this for me, like, it's helpful for me because I'm a contrarian by design. Whatever sprinkle of dust that God has for that, He gave me a lot of it. Because I feel like it's just like I think when I see people swing so far to like one side or the other, like, I'm like, oh, I got to fight the forces. I got to pull it back. And for me personally, I guess in my place in life, like my experiences, who I'm around, like I have a very wide mix of people, but like because of my position, like that feels challenging, I think, to a lot of people. But I think, and I probably shoot myself in the foot a lot, but Jesus, I try. Jesus invites us to something so different than that, And I think uh, when we focus on that, I think hopefully the picture starts to become a little bit clearer. And I wonder, like, Carly, like I don't know if you pay attention to every major conflict in the world and all that stuff and out there, but like, how do you when stuff like that is happening? Like, we don't have to go global or even national or state. It's like even when you see conflict in the world, where like people are trying to like challenge you about God, whether directly or indirectly, if they're like trying to poke you. And this happens when people find out you're a Christian. And I mean, funny. So when I was at VFW, I met another guy who's a Christian, and like the first thing he asked me was like, "What about the most controversial topic that has like come out of the church in years?" Like, I don't even know this guy. He's like, "Well, what do you think about this church thing?" And I was like, "Oh man, like what do you think about Jesus?" Like I don't. It just is so people want to argue so bad. So when you see that happening, how do you try to see God, the invitation of Jesus, of something different in the midst of that? Like, how do you kind of balance all that out?
Well, if you know me, you know that I this is going to sound bad maybe, but I'm basic, and I am proud to be basic.
Yeah, so that's all right.
Yeah. Sometimes he will say something and then I'll answer and he'll just look at me and I'm like, I'm basic because you can go so big and so far and so wide in thinking and in speaking and in rebuttal,
Mhm,
and I just go to the basics, and
mhm.
I don't want to argue with anybody because
Yeah.
they want that, or they want that in return. And I'm just like, "Hey, I know who Jesus is. I know who my savior is. He is this, and this." And and like, let's just get to the core of the truth. Truly, that to me is how I can have conversations with people in my neighborhood who don't believe in Jesus. And I just I try to make it simple, because so many people are trying to make it not simple. So if I can kind of bring down the lead balloon a little bit and be like, hey, like, how do you see Jesus in this situation? Because
Mhm.
I see Jesus in this light. And I have some neighbors and some friends that like to push it, or the all encompassing question, like, why do good things happen to bad people? And that one I mean, you can talk about that for hours, going back and forth, and you giving examples and then them giving examples. But when you are just like, hey, we live in a fallen world and we are not in heaven, and just letting that be the base, and then it's like, what's your next question?
Yeah. 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 Keep it simple, stupid, kiss. Or keep it simple, silly. We're in a Christian context, but I think I gave a whole sermon about that. Yeah, kiss. Yep. Yeah. I think, the way people ask questions and stuff, or the way people rebuttal whatever point it is, and, it really shows a lot for, like, their initial thoughts, right? And I think then, like, how they proceed after that, like, reveals kinda like what they're going after. It's like there's a lot of times, like, yeah, there's a lot of times where you could speak a truth, for example, or, like, point out an injustice, which happens a lot. Like, for me, which gets, the where I get the most engagement, I should say, is like, you point out an injustice, and then people wanna, like, start taking it to these wacky extremes of, like, "Well, what about this?" Or "What about that? What about this? What about that?" And you could just, like, point, like, you could just say, like, "Man, like, it's not that. Like, I don't know why you're trying to take me over to these spots." It's like, I see what you're asking, and I know what you're trying to get to, but, like,
Yes,
that's not where we're at, And so, like,
yes,
that could be like, there's people with really strong convictions in a lot of ways that are, worldly based, politically based, or whatever. But, I'm in those moments, and just any topic. I mean, this happens inside the church. And I was talking to somebody many years ago about, like, um, curriculum in a school. You know what I mean? Like, that, this anything is like, I think when you pursue after Jesus earnestly, you start to understand that it is simple. Like, the pastor I used to work for said, following Jesus is easy, but, like, actually doing it takes everything. And I think if you keep pursuing after that, like, understand, like, keep it simple. Love the Lord God with all your heart. Love your neighbors yourself. Go tell other people about it. Love God, love neighbor, go tell. Love God, love neighbor, go tell. Like, it just
yes,
cycles. And so, like, eventually you're going to get, like, you'll run into situations where people are going to challenge you, or people are going to try to paint you as a bad person. And I should say, of course, naturally, if you sin, or a part of a sin, or an injustice, like, you should repent and ask for forgiveness and apologize. Like, that's without question, right? But, like, you're going to find yourself in situations that you're going to have to see something beyond, like, the brokenness that is there, to invite people into something different that is, more better, more gooder, as my drill sergeant would say back in the day, more gooder than what we are right now. So that's um that is a difficult thing for some people to hold on to, I think, like, they want it. I think that, like, when people hear, like, what you're saying, keep it simple and basic, like, I obviously know you, but I do want to say that, like, being simple and being basic, as you say, doesn't mean that, like, it's not deep. It doesn't mean that it's not, like, holy and loving or surface level. Like, it just means that when you're in the water, you're staying afloat, but you're doing it in a way that's be the same way as swimming. Like, if the object is to stay afloat, you could do it by treading water, you could do it by swimming, you could do it by floating, but they're all the same thing. So simple isn't bad, and probably better for a lot of people. So, if you struggle, just keep it simple.
keep
Keep
it
it
simple.
simple. Keep it simple.
And I have seen a lot of the times where, someone will come and ask me, this just happened recently, about something that was in the news. And and they are repeating what they heard in the news and wanting to talk about it. And I
Mhm.
said, and I'm like, I love this. Like, this is great. But what you heard was one thing.
Mhm.
Over here, do you know what's connected to it? Do you know what caused it? Do you know what the domino effect was
Mhm.
from when you heard it on the news? And sometimes it's like, yeah, that happened because that happened because that happened because that happened. Like, let's like de-escalate by learning some facts, or like, I am totally okay if someone from the left wants to talk to me, someone from the right wants to talk to me, someone in the middle. Um, because it's, well, yeah, that happened because some of that happened because some of that happened. And same thing with Jesus. Like,
Mhm.
learning about Jesus, like, yeah, that he did that because it was prophesied here because so and so did that. Like, it's not just Jesus didn't just appear and then just die.
Yeah.
Like, there was a whole thing behind it. So like, let's learn the why behind what is happening.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's part of being, um, in the world, but not of the world, right? Like, it's
Yeah,
understanding
yeah, yeah, yeah.
what is happening, there is brokenness and not, like, hiding because of it. Because, I mean, yeah, like, there's these expectations that people put on the church, inside and outside, of how it should be,
100%.
how it shouldn't be, and you wade into these areas and kinda like, or Bill say, "Try to explain, but don't argue," and I would say, yeah, it's pretty similar. I mean, there's not much to argue if you know the truth is the truth. You know what I mean? And I think that, like, if you know beyond that, like, you're not in there. No? Okay, hold on.
There you are.
Okay, how about now? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Drive or restart or whatever. Yeah. But, like, if you're in there to, like, to know the truth, pursue the truth, then there's not much you can argue against it, first of all. But then, like, when you champion when people think you're championing one thing, it doesn't mean that you're championing another, and vice versa. Like, it will switch. Like, there's times where be like, I will, you can speak, the church can speak, I can speak, anybody can, like, speak about, like, something bad that's happened that's not very godly. Like, you could say, like, hey, this is not very loving. It could be as simple as that. Like,
Yeah.
treating people this way is not good. And then for whatever reason, there will be people that will, like, try to defend it because their expectation is whoever they are supporting is a Christian, and so they must be Christian. Something can't be wrong. So, like, you're wrong for saying that. And then the other side, of whatever that is, whatever the other side is, what they think I am, will say, like, thank you for supporting this. And they'll tie a whole nother issue to it. And, like,
100%.
man, like,
Yes.
I don't know. Like, it's not, I'm not for you or you or you. It just, yeah, it's a very fascinating thing to do. But I'll say this too, that when you speak truth and you speak love and you speak at a better life of invitation of, inviting people to new life and, to something beautiful, it is attractive. I mean, it's an attractive thing to do, like you said, we talked the other day, not here, but, like, people just come to your house, like, we have another friend that's like that. Her house was like the house where all the kids came, the home
Yeah.
for wayward people, and it's just because they were stable. They just loved each other. There was a house of love, like, like, that exudes from that. Even looking back on it now, I spent a lot of times at other people's houses when I was a kid because they exuded a different kind of love than, like, a wholeness and a completeness and a posture that I don't think was always, like, present, for me as a kid, so, like, that's attractional to people, and it's just simple. Love God, love neighbor, tell people about it. That's
Yep.
over and over again. So, Sharon said, verse 37, I think she's on delay, so we're finally getting to what she says. She said, stuck out to me. Moses even showed that the dead rise. He calls him God of Abraham, uh, and Jacob and Isaac, and he let them know that he's not the God of the dead, but of the living. Yeah, I think that's a really powerful statement too, that like God is outside of time and space, but like God's not like for the total future. God's not for like the total beginning. God's still present in this moment. Like God cares about us as living people. And I think it's um, there's certain camps for sure that will live beyond where they're at right now and only exist there and not be present in the spot that they're in right now because they believe God is not. Maybe they don't. I don't know. Maybe they don't believe that God is worried about what's happening in the world right now. Like
Mhm.
it's just a rush to the finish line. It's all about the finish and not the journey. But I think what Jonathan said on Sunday, whatever the view is of like how the world turns out, if we end up with God, like if we are children of life, I think is what he's saying here. Those who are considered worthy of a place in the age of resurrection, that we will not be disappointed. And I think it's a beautiful promise of. We probably argue a lot about things that don't really matter, and we spend a lot of energy on things that probably don't matter very much, or don't align with loving God and loving neighbor. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. Yep. So it's hard out there, but it's simple. Keep it simple. Be like
Keep it
Carly.
simple.
Love people. Love people. Love people. Love God. I mean, how easy. Fake it till you make it too. Eventually, maybe you'll get there. But I mean, like, yeah, I think it starts out when you start to love God, and then it shapes you to love people. It's very difficult then to hate people, and I think that's what we see a lot of. Brokenness rears its head, and the expectations are that if certain, particularly in the United States, very prominent voices uh, believe something and they co-opt Christianity, and this is not one political party or another, but it's like all parties, all politicians, all leaders will try to co-opt Christianity to bring about a world that looks like their version of Christianity, and they would be in the very, very exact same spot this Sadducee was, and being invited to something that's much bigger and grander than themselves. And
Mm.
yeah, myself included, I'm sure. So, humility. It's a tough thing to live into. But one day I will continue to be shaped and brought down. Yeah. Well, expectations. Well, I expect you, listener, watcher, Carly, to continue on our mission to pray daily and do good deeds. And I did, we're about to take communion, but just as an aside, it's not for you, Carly, because I talk to you almost every day. But if you're watching and you are praying every day and doing good deeds, like I want to hear stories. I need to hear. I would love for you to tell me how that's shaping you, or if it is shaping you. Like how you have changed in the past year. Because what's the man? Jonathan had so many good sayings lately. When you come to the table, everybody's welcome to the table. But the one thing that you cannot be after coming to the table is the same. So that's a thing we can live by. More in grace, more in love. So let's take communion together, I think. 60 seconds. Grab yourself some communion supplies if you need some. I have to go sprint out to get some because I don't have any more on my cart here. So minute to win it. But we'll have a minute to go grab your communion supplies. Bread if you have it. Juice or juice from the vine. How do they say it? Something from the vine. Grapes, grape juice, wine. That's your prerogative. And then we'll come back together and participate in the Lord's Supper, which Jesus himself gave to his disciples. So we'll see you in 60 seconds. Go. All right. Now that we are back together, Jesus sat around the table in his Last Supper knowing that he was about to be betrayed. I mean, he called it out, right? And still he lets people be at the table with him because people are not perfect. And he stands up to his disciples and those who are with him, and he takes a piece of bread and he breaks it and he says, this is my body. And then after supper, he takes a cup, says, this is the cup. And when he does this, he invites us all to the table. An act of humility, an act of sacrifice on his part. When we come to the table, it is a laying down of our life to recognize that we don't have all the answers and we don't have the power that Jesus has. So we do it in humility, and everybody's invited to the table. The only thing that we ask here is that if you come to the table, you are open and willing to allowing yourself to not be the same after you've been here, whether it's the first time you've ever taken communion or the trillionth time you've ever taken communion. That pursuing after God, when you come to the table, you are not the same when you leave. So Paul writes this to the church at Corinth. He says, "For I received from the Lord what I also passed on to you. The Lord Jesus, on the night he was betrayed, he took bread. And when he had given thanks, he broke it and said, 'This is my body, which is for you. Do this in remembrance of me.' The body of Christ broken for you, you may partake." In the same way, after supper, Jesus took the cup, saying, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood. Do this whenever you drink it in remembrance of me. The blood of Christ shed for your sins and for my sins and for the sins of the world, you may partake." "For whenever you eat this bread and you drink this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes." Amen. All right, Carly. My head's so big in this. The camera's really wonky today, so I didn't want to mess with it because I would shut the whole internet down if I touched it.
I love it.
You bet. So you got any last thoughts? Any final thoughts before we head on out of here?
I think one of the greatest things that my sister ever told me was that you are viewing something from how you used to view it and how you want something to be. And you need to shift your view. And that changed my expectations on people and situations greatly. So sometimes it is just shifting your eyes. Maybe you need to shift your eyes a little bit more towards Jesus if you feel like expectations aren't being met. But that was one of the greatest things that I had to learn as an adult, was just to sometimes you need to shift.
Yeah, my sister sounds like a pretty smart girl. Good thing they
She's
put all
very
those expectations on her to be the smart one. Yeah. Yeah, well, hey, we expect at Journey. That's so good. I should let you go last, but we expect at Journey that God does not leave you or forsake you, or is far away from you, and we believe that you should, if you are earnestly pursuing God. I said that word twice now. It must be important today, earnestly, but that you should be different. You should feel a calling to something. If you took communion for the very first time, that's a huge deal. You want to learn more about Jesus, that's cool too. You want to learn more about Journey, awesome. You just want to sign up to be a part of our community online, social media wise, or just getting newsletters or text messages that we're about to do some online stuff. Anything can be done by scanning that QR code next to Carly's head, or there we go, using this link that I'm about to put in the chat, which will take you to our link tree of next steps. And as always, you can send prayer requests there. Pray for you. We pray every Wednesday, most every Wednesday, and we pray for you. I mean, if you submit a prayer request, we'll pray for it, like as a group on Wednesday mornings, and throughout the week, I'll pray for you, because we believe that you are awesome, but we expect big things from God on your life. Just like God has changed our lives, we expect the same for you. So, yeah, that's all we got, I think. So may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you, be gracious to you, and may the Lord turn towards you and give you peace. Go in peace and serve the Lord. See you later. Bye, Carly.
Daddy.
Oh. This is really awkward. I was ready, and then I missed the button. There it is. Okay, bye now.